Well, it's been a pretty busy summer converting this wood storage area into a nice patio for our new pool. Let me show you. We got this 21-foot above ground pool dismantled a few years ago, and it's been sitting in a storage trailer ever since. Last week was finally time to get this thing set up. So I've been hard at it, putting the finishing touches to the back patio so that we can sit down and relax for the rest of the summer. Slowly but surely, everything is coming together with our nice wall decorations and a logo, our nice chairs with the cushions, and now I'm off to making some cedar planters to decorate. And that's why we're here today. I'm going to show you how to build these little planters out of some cedar fence boards, and they're really easy to build. You can pretty much make these as many rows high as you want. I've got mine set to 3. And today I'll show you how to build a 4-high row planter and a 3-row high planter. I'll be using a circular saw, a narrow crown staple, speed square, pencil measuring tape, miter saw, and a table saw back there. I'm not sure if you can hear that in the background, but those are 2 alpacas just fighting away. All right, so let's get started at marking off some pieces, and then we'll cut them and assemble the whole thing. So along with the patio furniture and a few other things that I made, these plans for these cedar planters come from Anna White's website. I'll put the link in the description below. She's got tons and tons and tons of really neat DIY projects that are super simple to do and very easy to follow. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna figure out how many rows high you wanna go. You could probably go as low as 2, but I really wouldn't go any higher than 7. That's gonna get pretty tall. Now, once you have everything lined up nice and straight and you've got them piled one on top of each other like this, you're gonna need your speed square and your pencil. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna mark a line from this top corner here, 5 degrees off coming down to the bottom. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So you're gonna make sure your boards are nice and straight and lined up. Try and close that gap as much as you can. And then you're gonna take your speed square and you're gonna put it nice and straight along the edge here and flush along the top. And then you're gonna take this end, and there's markings here. And you see where it says 5? You're gonna take this and you're gonna pivot it 5 degrees like so. Right about there. And then you're gonna take your pencil and you're gonna make your line. All right, so now that you've got your line going from the top, you can continue it down with the straight edge you've got. Just make sure it's straight. I know this piece is straight because I just cut it. So there's our 5-degree line from the top to the bottom. So for this project, we're also going to need to cut some strips along with our full boards. So we're gonna need 4 pieces at 2 inches wide, and we're gonna need 4 pieces at 3 inches wide. And the height of those pieces is going to depend on how many rows of wood that you have selected. So if you have 2 rows of wood, then you need to cut them to length to whatever 2 pieces you've got. 3 rows, same thing goes. So I've got 4 rows here, so I'm gonna measure it out and I'm gonna cut up 4 pieces at however long my pieces are here. And I like to cut the angles at the top. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'll start by ripping these down to 2 inches wide. There's something about fresh cut cedar smell in the morning. It's just so awesome. We might as well rip down our pieces at 3 inches where we got the table saw out. So you're gonna take your freshly cut 2-inch piece and we're going to put it right on the line that we drew right here. And to not waste, we're gonna try and go as high as we can here. So it's on the line here. Now at the top here, I'm gonna make a small line on my piece because these are the corner pieces. So they're gonna be on an angle whenever you assemble your box. And I didn't like the crookedness of the first one, so I started tracing out my angles and I'm cutting them. And I'll show you on a finished box what I mean by that in 1 second. And this is just eyeballing. So I've got a line right here now, and I've got a line up here, so that once the box is assembled and we put these pieces here, these are cut on an angle, which is the line I just made. It'll sit flush with the top of the box all the way around. You can skip this step, but know that this piece will be crooked because you left it straight whenever you cut it. The nice thing is once you've got one marked, you can just replicate that one for all your next 4 because the angles are going to be the same. You can even do the same thing with the 3-inch pieces. You just cut them all to the same length and the same angle. Just duplicate it 8 times. It's that simple. Now I'm just going to take my other pieces. I'm actually going to take 2 of them. And I'm just going to throw it on here. Chop them all at the same time. And there we go. So we got 4 at 3 inches and 4 at 2 inches, and they've all got those angles that we just drew out on them. It's time to fasten the 2-inch pieces that we just cut to the 4 boards that we've got laying down on the ground. All right, so this part is pretty simple, but it can get a little bit tricky because I built 3 of these and I did the same mistake on 2 of them. So I tend to screw stuff up whenever I have to repeat it over and over again for some reason. But anyways, here we are. So the piece that we just cut's got some angles cut on it. What we're going to do is we're going to set that piece down on the line that we just cut. And you're going to notice that, make sure you've got it going the right way because your angles are going to match the top and the bottom here of your 4 boards. So you're essentially going to create V's like this and like this side by side going down your board. And always remember that the top portion of it is going to be the top of your planter. So try and put these as far up to the top on the wide portion of the V than the bottom. And I'll show you what I mean after I've done it, and it'll make sense. So I'm gonna get these installed and I'll explain to you after. And for this, I'm just gonna be using a Nair crown staple, and I think I've got 3/4 inch staples in there. So it's more than enough to bite through it and hang on to it. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we need to measure off from the top to get our distance to put our next piece of wood, like this. Now, depending on how many boards you have, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 boards here, then the size of the opening at the top will be different. So for 4 boards, I need 17 inches. Now, what I mean by I need 17 inches is I'm going to take my measuring tape from the outside of the piece of wood that we just fastened on. I'm going to draw a line on the top of my board here at 17 inches. And I'm going to take my speed square again, and we're going to draw a line creating a V on this board here. So speed square. Raise up to 5 degrees and just draw your line. All right. So I got my line drawn, and now this piece is going to go right here, and I'm going to make sure that my top is nice and flush with the wood here. Just like that. And that's ready to fasten on. Okay, so the next one is a little bit different. So this next one here, we've got 17 inches from the top to the top. Now we're going to measure 16 inches because we need 16 inches from the bottom here to the bottom there. All right, so this piece is fastened on. Now we need to put our next piece. And if you'll notice, we've got a V going like this. Now our next V is going to be going down like this. All right, so our first V here, the top of it measures 17 inches. Now we need to add our second V, which is going to be inversed upside down, and we need 16 inches on the inside. 16 inches. So this one here is from the outside of your wood, outside. This one here is from the inside at 16 inches. So where's my speed square? So speed square, this, 5 degrees, going inwards. And we are going to fasten our piece like so. So this V, that's the top. This V is the top. So we're gonna flip them around whenever we cut them. And then we just repeat the process. "17 inches, 5 degrees, our line, and our piece." Make sure you put your piece on the right side of the line. It's happened to me a few times where I end up putting it on the wrong side. So this top here over here, 17 inches. So your top here has to also be 17 inches. So just be aware that if you put it on the wrong side of the line, it's not going to work. All right, and then for the last one, we're gonna measure off 16 inches from our bottom, but we're not gonna put any wood. We're just gonna leave it as is. Make sure we extend out our line. Again, if you're gonna use a piece of wood to draw out your straight line, just make sure that your piece of wood is straight. All right, that may have been a bit confusing, so let me show you now that I'm done what I did exactly. So I laid out my 4 planks onto the ground, and then we fastened on our 1x2 pieces of cedar all the way down, and we marked off our last line here. Now there's an appropriate spacing to these things depending on how many rows you've gone up. So because I've gone up 4 rows here, the spacing is 17 inches from outside to outside on the first one, and you just take an inch away from inside to inside on your second one, and then you just keep going with that pattern. 17, and then this last one here that we drew out with no wood, 16 right there. The way that she has these plans drawn out, it goes from 7 planks, and at 7 planks your outside to outside dimension is 20 inches. And then each plank you remove 1 inch from there. So if you were to do 6 planks, it's 19 inches. If you were to do 5 planks, 18 inches. 4 planks, 17 inches. 3 planks, 16 inches. And then you remove 1 inch from each of those measurements for the inside measurement. So because this one's 4 rows, it was 17 outside and 16 inside. Super simple. So the next thing we've got to do now is cut out these shapes that we've just done. So let's do that with the circular saw. So the first cut I did is I trimmed off the little excess edge that we've got there. Now the next cut I'm gonna do is right here. Then we're gonna cut this here too. And then we're gonna cut this right here. And then that. One. Now, when you cut this one, the boards are just going to fall. We're using these. Make sure that you keep them. This one here will be held together, so we're cutting on this side here. And our final pieces are these ones, which are just gonna end up being loose also. Just be careful cutting them if you're using a circular saw. Keep these because you'll be using them to make your bottoms. All right, so all our pieces are cut. It's time to assemble them. Let me show you how to do that. You should be left with 2 pieces that have your 1x2s attached to them like this. You should have 4 pieces that are loose like this, that are the same shape, right there again. And you should have your 4 pieces of 1x3s that we cut earlier. All right, so let me show you how to assemble all these things together. So we're gonna take one of our sections like this, and we're going to take one of our 1x3s that's cut with the angles. So this is the outside of your planter, this is the inside. So the piece that you can see, the 1x2s, that's the outside. So make sure that you lay it down like this and that they're on the outside. I've missed this, I've screwed this up twice already. So just pay attention because it's real easy to put the piece on the wrong side. So now what you want to do is, seeing that your planter, you know your planter's going to sit on an angle like this, these have angles on them too. So you're going to have to figure out, like so. It's going to have to go like this, right? Because you've cut the angles for them to be flush when they're sitting down. So it's straight. If you wouldn't have cut this angle, it would have been crooked when you would have been looking at your planter from any angle that you would have been looking at it from. So just make sure that you angle these the right way, because you can put them the wrong way and it's just going to throw absolutely everything off and it's just not going to work. So let me assemble it and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So these right here are our inside pieces and we need to fasten them on here. Now, I like the top to look good, so I will start with my top row. That way there, it can be flush to my piece right here and that piece right there. If you remember, whenever we were fastening our 1x2s to the 4 boards that were laying flat, I told you to try and keep the tops of the V's flush to your top board, and that's because it gives it a better aesthetic, and you don't really see the bottom if you screwed that up, but you'll definitely see the top walking by. Then we'll do the same thing with the remaining boards below and on the other side. We're just going to flip it and do the same thing. All right, and there you go. Now you've got a planter that's pretty much all assembled. You just need a bottom. Now here's where things get a little interesting, because there was actually no bottom in the plan, so I've got to figure out a bottom on my own. Ripping all my 1x2s and 1x3s, I ended up with a few of these strips here. I think I'm going to fasten them along the bottom here, and I will just put some boards to close it all in. I think it'll be the simplest solution, and it should hold up fairly well. Got those pieces installed, and so we got a lip to put our pieces, or boards down there, so let's get those boards cut now. We're gonna reuse the ends of the boards that we cut a while ago, and we should have more than enough to do the bottoms. And we're gonna need a little sliver. At 2 inches. And we've got a bunch of them cut at 2 inches that are left over from our pieces a while ago. There you go. It's got a bottom, and this, oh man, it smells good in there. Nice cedar. These planters are easy to build. They look great. They smell great. And because they're cedar, they should last you an absolutely long, long time. Here's a better look at that bottom I just made, and it fit in there perfectly. So here's a 3-row versus a 4-row, and you can see how big these things could actually get if you went all the way up to 7 rows. Now it's getting pretty hot today. It's supposed to get up to a high of like 35 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to go get the pool ready because I have a feeling I'm going to be spending a lot of time in there today with the kids. We've been in that thing ever since we set it up. If you guys follow my shorts, you know that we've been mulling over the idea of either digging a natural pond or sinking this pool into the ground and turning it into an in-ground, but all of that involved way too much work, and I just figured, you know what, we've got this thing, we might as well just set it up the way that an above-ground pool is meant to be set up. I've got our little temporary deck set up, which, let me show you real quick. I gotta show you this. This thing has been retrofitted to, originally, it started off to accommodate a pool that was 30 inches high, and then it was to accommodate a pool that was 42 inches high, and now the walls of this pool are 52 inches high, and probably a little bit higher than that after final grading. So I've had to jack this thing up into the air, add to the stairs, but in all honesty, it is way more solid than I ever thought it was going to be. It is not going anywhere. Little canopy worked out great. I will be replacing this deck with something significantly better than this and way more permanent. The plan is to extend a wooden deck from the concrete deck over here to run it down towards the pool so that it runs right to the edge here, a couple bar stools or something like that, pool bar, stairs going up, and a deck the entire width of the pool back there. But that's not gonna happen this year. I'm just gonna enjoy it for the time being, and maybe late fall and early spring, I'll get started on constructing that. In the meantime, I've got one more of these boxes left to build, and I truly hope that you enjoyed watching this and that you can build your own cedar planter boxes. These things are super easy to build, they're fun to build, and once you've got one under your belt, the other ones just, they build themselves like that. Again, these plans come from Anna Waite's website. I will link it down in the description below. I would truly appreciate it if you liked and subscribed to the channel. I'm trying to grow it, and we'll see how big we can get this. Catch you on the next video.